He's Richard Roeper, Chicago Sun-Times film critic, who joins us now. Richard, how are you?
Morning. Hey, Dan. Hey, Bob.
Hi.
Where do you want to start, Richard? Do you want to start with snubs, or do you want to dive right into who's going to win? We lost
really
him.
crowded. And, the fact that Tom Hanks for Captain Phillips wasn't even nominated is amazing to me.
I watched that on the flight back from Sochi. I thought he was very good, but I didn't know if there was one. There's always, it's sort of like, NCAA tournament, those on the bubble who don't get in. But now you have 10 that get nominated. So is it really hard, that you look at somebody and you say you really got snubbed with a certain movie now with 10 that get nominated?
Well, with Best Picture, it could be a maximum of 10. The Academy, they love to have the most convoluted voting procedures. They make the Heisman look like your neighborhood county board Parks and Rec election. So they can have a maximum of 10, a minimum of 5. This year there are 9. I have no idea why. I don't think the Academy knows why. But when you have 9 nominees, it gets 9 movies and ostensibly 5 or 6 studios who get to say, look at all these pictures. They'll always be able to say it was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Picture. The reality is there are only 2 or 3 pictures that really have a shot at winning.
And those are?
Those would be Gravity, American Hustle, and 12 Years a Slave. If they announce the Best Picture Sunday night as Philomena, you're going to have the entire nation saying, who did what?
And while Nebraska is not among those that you list as having a shot at Best Picture, my guess would be that since all these performances are phenomenal performances, the tiebreaker is going to be in favor of Bruce Dern because it's going to be a career capper. And a lot of voters are going to say, I can't say for sure his performance was better than Matthew McConaughey's or the other way around or Leonardo DiCaprio's, but I'm going to vote for Bruce Dern. He's in his late 70s, has had a tremendous career. This is the role of a lifetime. I think he's going to win.
That's excellent observation, and it could happen. And Bruce Dern's a guy, he was only nominated once before for Coming Home. Remember that? It was a great performance. He didn't win. He's somebody who's very popular. He's had a 5-decade career. And they're also looking at that ballot and saying, all those other actors are either in their 30s or 40s. They'll get nominated again. Christian Bale will have his shot. Leonardo DiCaprio will certainly have his shot. So you may see that. And the other factor, of course, the Academy voters, the membership, once you're in for life. So a lot of the voters are in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even 80s and 90s. So that could happen. I still think McConaughey's going to win because it's got all the elements of an Oscar-winning performance. It's based on a true story. It's a very tragic story. There's a startling physical transformation. And again, he's a very popular actor. So I still think McConaughey's going to win.
All right. I haven't seen it 99% of these movies, Richard. But that doesn't stop me from telling you who's going to win. 12 Years a Slave wins Best Picture. Best Actor is going to go to Matthew McConaughey. Best Supporting Actor is Jared Leto. The Best Actress is Cate Blanchett. And then we get to the interesting part of Best Supporting Actress. And I'm going to go with the woman from 12 Years a Slave over Jennifer Lawrence.
Lupita Nyong'o.
Beautiful woman. Beautiful woman.
Yeah, and a wonderful performance, and tough performance to sit through. I think you're pretty much spot on. I'm still saying that Gravity might upset 12 Years a Slave for Best Picture. All the other categories. The biggest lock of the night.
The director is going to win.
Yeah, Alfonso Cuarón.
Yeah, he'll win, but I don't know. I get the feeling with 12 Years a Slave, I think it's too important of a topic that, you can look at Wall Street and some of these other and Gravity, but I don't know. I think that just the serious nature of it would give it maybe the picture of the year. Even though I haven't seen it, but I hear it's great.
I don't know how to tell you this. It's actually it's a musical. It's a shocker. Everyone expects that.
Oh, okay.
And that's turned off some voters. No, I mean it is. It's a film like Schindler's List or Saving Private Ryan, where you have, where you see it. It feels a little bit like an assignment for school because some of it you're like, God, it's really tough to sit through. But it is an important film. That being said, I think a lot of these voters too, they're out working on movies. They don't get to see a lot of these films until right before nomination time. They get the screeners sent to their homes, and I think some people sitting at home might have that same feeling. Like this was not. It was a great film, but not an enjoyable experience on one level. And you see Gravity, and it just is so visually stunning. I think it's going to win.
Richard, back in the day when I did, this is now 20 years ago when I did my last one, but in the late 80s and into the mid-90s, I did a show called Later on NBC, and it was a very good show for actors and directors to talk about their craft, not necessarily to sell whatever project they had going and to talk about their whole careers. And Robert Duvall, who's never been bad in anything, was talking about something that you mentioned a while ago, a physical transformation. It was right about the time that Daniel Day-Lewis was rightly acclaimed for My Left Foot. And he said, look, an equally good performance will never be viewed the same because there's this outward physical transformation, and there's a lot of things that are just obvious on the surface that look to people like acting, whereas things that are a bit more subtle. And he wasn't criticizing Daniel Day-Lewis's performance. He went out of his way to say that it took great skill, but there are other things that take a more subtle sort of skill that are going to be overlooked, was his view.
I think that's absolutely true, and historically we've seen that. Charlize Theron wins for Monster because she puts on all this weight and doesn't look like the beautiful woman she is. Even De Niro, Raging Bull, a great performance, but people talk about the physical transformation. The truth is, McConaughey lost all that weight for Dallas Buyers Club. A lot of actors can lose a lot of weight. It's the acting you do. And, you look at what Sandra Bullock does in Gravity. It's a much better performance than she gave in The Blind Side. The Blind Side is one of those movies that's designed to be a crowd pleaser. It's like Aaron Brockovich. It's a lot of scene-stealing moments where Sandra Bullock gets to have the last word to kind of walk off. In Gravity, it's mostly her voice and half of her face carrying the role, and that's more impressive to me.
We're talking to Richard Roeper, Chicago Sun-Times film critic. Which comedy in history should have won?
Oh, I think there's several. Some Like It Hot would be one. I think you could make an argument. We just lost the great Harold Ramis this week. Groundhog Day, routinely now makes the list not just of the best 100 comedies, but of the best 100 films of all time. And that didn't win. Comedies, they never win. The last time a pure comedy won was Annie Hall in '77. You can make the argument Shakespeare in Love has a lot of elements of comedy, but they don't even usually get nominated.
I thought Meet the Parents. I thought De Niro in Meet the Parents was brilliant. I did. I thought it was a brilliant. Now, my guys.
You didn't think Fockers even transcended Parents though in the sequels where he grew into the character and the nuances?
That one I didn't like to Meet the Fockers.
No, that had Dustin Hoffman though.
Yeah, and Barbra Streisand.
Right.
And but I thought De Niro. Although my guys, the Danettes say De Niro acts like De Niro in every movie. All he does is repeat his... Seton, give Richard Roeper your De Niro impression.
You're good. You're good. You talking to me? That's all the same thing.
Oh, yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah, so all he does is repeat his lines. So, but I thought De Niro in Meet the Parents was spectacular.
Look, there are a lot of comedies. Look, we just talked about Dustin Hoffman. Look at a movie like Tootsie. When people talk about their favorite movies of all time, they almost always list comedies. When they quote movies, it's either Goodfellas or Godfather or comedies. That's we're talking about Harold Ramis. Look at all those movies, Caddyshack and Ghostbusters. People who were born after National Lampoon's Animal House came out can quote you Animal House. Sure.
But also, and I'll leave you with this, and then I'll get your thoughts, but with Harold Ramis, didn't he make way for Judd Apatow? Like all of these guys who are doing these movies now, Harold Ramis started this, didn't he?
Absolutely. And you saw a lot of that, on social media or wherever, where the next generation of filmmakers, actors, directors, all of them were saying that because that's, they were weaned on those comedies. From 78 with National Lampoon's Animal House through 93 with Groundhog Day, Ramis had like a 15-year run, like a Henry Aaron-esque run where he was just all Hall of Fame stuff.
Richard, I don't want to get, too heavy with this. And I knew Ramis slightly because we had mutual friends. He was a sweet, sweet man in person. And even though a lot of his comedies were rebellious and they came out of that anti-establishment, the little guy taking down the institution or the stuffed shirt type thing, Animal House, all those films had those elements. There was never meanness about him. There was never snarkiness about him. There was irreverence, yes, and those who deserved to be taken down a peg were taken down a peg, but the meanness was never there. There was a redeeming sweetness about both the man and his movies.
That's so true. You look at all those movies, even something like, whether it's Stripes or Caddyshack, he always worked in a nice romance there, and that kind of took the edge off the rebellious characters because you saw him, and again, treated the women characters with respect. Guys did in some ways, So that's very true, and you're right. He was the same way off screen. Here's a guy that moved his family back to Chicago, as you know, in the mid-'90s because he wanted to have a more kind of normal Midwestern atmosphere for himself and for his family.
Richard, I know you got a busy weekend, and great to have you on. We really appreciate
Anytime.
it.
Great talking to you guys.
All right,
Bye, Richard.
Richard Roeper, Chicago Sun-Times film critic.